Assalamualaikum warahmatullah, guys. Welcome back to our analysis of Islamic banking behavior. We know very well that the year 2023 has been predicted as a year of recession in view of the prevailing policy pursued by central bank to contain inflation by raising interest rate. And this policy may backfire into a recession when high interest rate, will produce a credit crunch, and that will, bring about an economic slowdown when people do not have enough liquidity to spend. So under this period of inflation and economic recession, we would like to see in further detail how would the Islamic bank be reacting, how would they allocate their asset based on the prevailing economic condition. We know very well that conventional banking has been pro-cyclical in the sense that in a recession where we have an economic slowdown, the bank will make the recession even worse by not making loans, right? Because they fear that by making loans during an economic slowdown, the loan may default, and this can create huge losses to the bank. So the bank would not want to come in to make loans during a recession, and so that make the recession even worse. So this pro-cyclical behavior is unfair. But then the conventional bank will say that this is essentially a private, activity. So the bank is not a social entity, but they are here to make profit and to prevent losses to their businesses. And therefore we cannot blame the bank for being selfish and pursuing the safety principle. Likewise, under an inflationary period, the conventional bank will pursue the profitability principle by making more and more loan, because during inflation, which is an economic where the economy is booming, that is the best time to make loan, because people have money to settle their debt obligation, right? So the economy is doing well, businesses are making good profit, and therefore the bank will keep on making loans in order to maximize profit. There is no fear that this loan will go into default. But then by making more and more loans, this will further intensify the inflation, and therefore this pro-cyclical behavior of the conventional banking is not helping the economy either, right? So our main concern here is to see whether or not the Islamic bank will be behaving in a pro-cyclical manner like conventional bank. But before doing that, we should take note that the Islamic bank were established within a dual financial system, where the conventional banking counterpart is the bigger competitor. At the same time, the Islamic bank is a deposit-taking bank, meaning that they are highly leveraged. They are not using their own capital fund to make murabaha, but they are using the fund acquired from depositor to make murabaha. And because of the low skin in the game, there is possible moral hazard where bank can become irresponsible, because they will say that the loan they make or the murabaha that they offer are not coming from their pocket; they are coming from the depositor's money. So regulation will come in, to ensure that banks have adequate capital to support their businesses. So in case if there's a default, then this loss from default will be absorbed by capital. And number two, more importantly, that the Islamic Bank was set up within a fractional reserve banking system, and meaning that they are participating in money creation. So when the Islamic Bank make murabaha, this murabaha will become deposits, and deposit will make more murabaha and more deposits. And as we know, deposits is the M1. M1 is currency plus demand deposits. So the Islamic Bank participate in deposit creation or money creation, and that will be difficult to see the Islamic Bank involving in money creation, because when they are pursuing a procyclical strategy, so money creation will intensify the inflation. Or in a recessionary period, the cut in money creation, meaning that when the Islamic Bank refuse to make murabaha, that will reduce the money supply, and that will further intensify the recession. So that would be the so-called assumption, not assumption, that is the reality facing Islamic banking, as they were set up in within a dual financial system. So their operation is limited by what is prevailing in the financial infrastructure. So if we look at the Islamic banking asset management strategy, number one, we must be able to distinguish between what the Islamic bank is doing and what the conventional bank is doing, because the Quran has prescribed al-bay' and prohibit riba, and therefore al-bay' and riba, these are two contrasting phenomenon. Al-bay' is permitted, halal, and riba is prohibited, haram, which means that al-bay' is good and riba is evil. Riba is exploitation and unjust, where al-bay' is fair and good. So in a sense that where the conventional bank is acting in a procyclical manner, which is damaging the economy, it will make the inflation worse, or it will make the recession even worse, then the Islamic bank should be acting in a counter-cyclical manner, right? Because if the Islamic bank is to act in a pro-cyclical manner, it will be damaging the economy. So that will be against the maqasid of the Sharia. But then, as we see, the Islamic bank are operating within a dual framework, and they are operating as a deposit-taking bank, and most of the asset or most of the product offering are based on debt, because it is impossible for the bank to do equity when funding is coming from deposit, because to do equity, then the capital requirement imposed on equity financing or on real sale or through leasing will be enormous, which many Islamic banks will not be able to do. Thus, what happened today is the Islamic bank are forced to do debt financing under the pretext of tawarruk and murabaha. And if that is true, then the most logical strategy that the Islamic bank will pursue will be the profitability objective, which is under inflation, is to make as much murabaha as possible, just like the conventional bank that will be making as much loan as possible. So if you look at the balance sheet here, out of 100 billion worth of deposit, 80 billion will be allocated to do murabaha, and 15 billion into sukuk, and 5 billion in cash. But this will again be a repeat of the conventional system, whereby under inflation, when more and more murabaha is offered, because it is a good time to make murabaha, as you know, there's no fear of default because people have the capacity to pay their debt obligation. So this will further intensify the inflation, you know, as the Islamic Bank keeping on making more and more murabaha and tawru. So this will create more, you know, financing and more deposits, and more financing and more deposits. So that will increase the money supply, and certainly under a period of inflation, that will further fire up or intensify the inflationary pressure, which is not good, you know, for the economy. And thus the current state of the Islamic banking, which is set up within a dual system, is not good enough, you know, to evidence what an Islamic bank should be offering to the economy, unless the Islamic bank is funded by the investment account fund. Then we can see that the asset strategy may be much different from what we are seeing today, when the funding of assets are coming from deposit. Okay, so let us stop here, and inshallah we can follow the discussion in the next video. Please don't forget to share and to comment and to subscribe. I'll see you again. Assalamu alaikum.